What is good, everyone? Welcome to the channel. My name is Paul. I make videos about Japanese society, life, and culture from the viewpoint of a long-term foreign resident. I've been in Japan for 20 years. I'm back in my old neighborhood in Yamanashi Prefecture to have a walk around. Please enjoy this walk with me. You can hear the cicadas screaming off in the distance, one of the great sounds of Japanese summer. And today I'm going to be talking about things that are actually disappearing in Japan. Japan has certainly become a place where a lot of foreign tourists want to come. It's become a place where people are seeing the culture and society as something that is beautiful and something to emulate and something to check out and enjoy as a tourist, or even move here and immerse yourself in the culture and society as a resident. That said, it is changing here. There are things about Japan that are disappearing. Editor Paul here, just with a quick interjection to say that between shooting this video earlier this week and the time you're watching it now, the channel has hit 10,000 subscribers. Thank you so much for everyone who is subscribed, everyone who's hit that like button, who's shared my videos with other people, who watches on the weekly basis. I really appreciate all of you, and I just wanted to say thank you. I also want to invite you to go into the comment section below and make a comment suggesting what you would like to see as the 10,000 subscriber celebration video. And at the end of this video, I'm going to be shouting out the people who comment on my videos the most. You know who you are, but I think I need to give you a little bit of the spotlight. That'll come at the very end of the video, so please stay tuned for that. Alright, let's get back to the video. I've spoken in the past about local cultures disappearing because of young people's flight to the larger cities. And of course, the fact that the countryside is filled with basically mostly elderly these days, and those cities die off, and so the local cultures die off as well. But what I actually want to get into is to talk about things that are more commonly associated with Japan in people's minds that actually are disappearing from daily life, whether it's because of technological change, modern lifestyle changing, or just the tastes of younger people moving some of these things out of normal society. I'm going to start with one that, if you've been a resident here for a while, you maybe have not even really noticed it or taken it in yet, but it just occurred to me last summer when I was on the train and looking around that a long time Japanese culture has been completely killed off just in the past few years. And that is the use of the Japanese fan, or sensu. Basically, Japanese for centuries have used fans to keep themselves cool. And until very recently, that was the case. The salaryman, the elderly lady, the young schoolgirl, they would be using a handheld fan to keep themselves cool. But those have disappeared pretty much entirely in favor of the electric fans that everyone is using now. So that common sight in Japanese summer that has been around for centuries, the Japanese fan, gone perhaps forever. Other things that are deeply associated with Japanese culture that have disappeared because of technology or lifestyle changes, certain things around the home like tatami mats. Tatami mats have long been thought to be just the kind of typical Japanese style flooring. They're largely gone. You might have newly built homes that have a single tatami mat room in them, but even those are not so very popular. So the tatami mat, kind of everyone's image of a traditional Japanese inn or home filled with tatami. There goes the express back to Shinjuku. Probably some very tired people on that train because it is Mount Fuji climbing season. We just had a typhoon go through. Mount Fuji could be visible behind me there at some point, but not at the moment because there's still a lot of clouds around. Anyway, tatami mats pretty much gone. We have a tatami mat room in our house, but it's because we specifically requested it. Compare that to my in-laws who live in this area. My in-laws have their entire house is tatami mats except for the kitchen and bathroom areas, which are flooring or tile. Now, it should be said that tatami wasn't always ubiquitous. If we go back far enough to Meiji era and earlier than that in the Edo era, you had to be kind of wealthy to have tatami, and a lot of normal people had earthen floors or wooden beams as their flooring, etc. Tatami really came to be normal kind of from late Meiji, Taisho, Showa era. And, you know, it's not the most convenient type of flooring anyways, because it's harder to keep clean. It can be prone to molding. You have to flip the tatami every 5 or 6 years, something like that, so that the wear patterns, you wear out one side and you flip it over to the other side, and they don't last forever. You put down wood flooring or synthetic flooring and that's going to last much longer. So not so popular these days. Two other important things that are disappearing from Japanese homes. One is the kamidana and the other is the butsudan. The kamidana is the god shelf. My in-laws actually have 4 or 5 kamidana in their house. Basically, it's the gods of the house or gods that are meant to protect the house. I believe the one in the kitchen is specifically to the kitchen god. And my mother-in-law diligently goes around every day and lights a candle at each one of them, and my father-in-law prays at each of them. Usually the man of the house is the one who prays to the gods of the house for, protection and keeping the house safe, etc. We have a kamidana in our house, in our tatami mat room, our one Japanese room, mostly because my mother-in-law really insisted, and I don't mind. I am very happy to embrace these parts of Japanese culture, so we have a kamidana in our house. The butsudan, however, is Buddhist tradition, and that is basically a large piece of furniture that acts as an altar to the ancestors of your family. And my mother-in-law diligently goes and lights a candle every day, rings the bell, prays to the deceased ancestors of the family. And whenever we've gone on a trip, my wife has always insisted that we pray to her family members who are long gone to watch over us on our journey. So if we go back to the US, for example, she wants to stop at her parents' house and pray at the butsudan. But that actual piece of furniture is becoming less and less common. People are not spending the money to buy that. People don't want to give up the space to have that large thing in their house. So most people are just keeping kind of a dedicated shelf somewhere or a small low table somewhere that they can pray to, if their parents have passed away or something like that. That's become far more common than having an actual large piece of furniture in the house. When I ask my university students, who has a kamidana in your house? It's, very small smattering of hands that goes up. And butsudan, not at all. Like, those only exist in the grandparents' house, and my understanding is even if their parents pass away or their grandparents pass away, there's no intention to get a butsudan in the house where they grew up. I'm gonna try this little side lane. It might be a dead end. A lot of dead ends like this. I don't see a sign anywhere, but a lot of dead ends don't actually give you any signage. So we'll see if I have to turn around in a moment. And with the death of tatami rooms and Japanese rooms and these Japanese accoutrements, you're also seeing like shoji, the paper and wood doors, disappearing from homes. And as a result, that actually means certain abilities or manners are disappearing from Japanese culture. Because there is a certain way that you are supposed to sit and open shoji. You don't just walk up and open while standing. You're supposed to kneel, open it up, and this is when you're receiving guests, when you're doing this formally. Obviously, if you're just going around your own house, you can do whatever you want with your doors. But if you're receiving guests, you kneel and you open the door formally. And I've seen my mother-in-law do this. When she sees guests out of the house, she always kneels at the genkan, or the entranceway, and bows as they leave. And this is, a relic of floor living on mats, living on tatami, not, the modern living of sofas and chairs and that sort of thing. So there's a proper way to open shoji while you're kneeling and closing them and entering the room after you've opened the doors, etc. And I think most young people, most of my students in my classes at the university, for example, will not have any experience doing this sort of thing. They've just never been taught, and they didn't live in a house where it was relevant. And that leads me to the final, most extreme of this, which is Japanese houses in general are just disappearing. Obviously, the houses are less in demand, the old ones that is, and even Japanese style houses are actually not really sought after Now, you might see some along the way today as I walk, but like this one I'm walking past right now has a very traditional looking garden and sort of roof and color scheme. Yeah, it's a very Japanese house. But many more Japanese are opting for a house like this one behind me here. More modern, more Western, I suppose, siding. Basically, when we were building our house, which I'm making a YouTube series on that, I've already got 2 episodes out on the process it took for us to build our house. And there will be a part 3 coming soon. If you're interested in that, please look it up, or I guess I'll link it below. We had real trouble getting a builder who would build us a Japanese, or we wanted modern, like Japanese modern style. We had real problems getting Thomas! We had real trouble getting a builder to make a Japanese style house. In fact, one of the big reasons we chose the builder we went with in the end was because they were willing to make a Japanese style house. One builder was like, I don't think we can do what you're asking, so I recommend you go with another builder. They just gave up. They're like, we can't do that. Another builder tried, and they kept putting these designs in front of me that was just like, it was a modern house with kind of Japanese coloring, and I was like, that's definitely not what I'm looking for. So, not many people who are buying houses, or in the house building market at least, are choosing Japanese designs, and the younger generations just aren't interested. And part of that is because many of the houses that went up after the war, the Showa era, basically were built quickly because people needed shelter. Everything had been bombed to bits, and lots of shoddy construction, poor materials, and so there's a lot of association with those older Japanese homes being poor quality, drafty, too hot in the summer, too cold in the winter, falling apart easily, don't look very nice. And so no one wants to live in what looks like a Japanese house for that reason. Now, obviously, with modern building techniques and better materials, you can have absolutely lovely Japanese houses, but the demand really isn't there, unfortunately. And there are still old Japanese houses. Backyard shrine over there. There's old Japanese houses that still get bulldozed these days. I remember hearing about an old kominka in Kamakura. Just the owner didn't want to sell it, didn't want to do anything with it, just wanted it to be torn down. Which, well, for me, that's the romantic in me. That's really rough to hear. I would have loved to have, owned a house like that. The last thing I'll say about homes is that the multi-generational home, that is also a dying tradition, where you have grandparents and even great-grandparents living in the same house under the same roof. And again, obviously that's for many modern living considerations. Young people have moved to Tokyo, they're living in smaller apartments or condominiums called mansion here, and there's no space to have a whole bunch of other family members in your house with you. I mean, simply the modern living has made the multi-generational home a thing of the past. Some things that are not related to the home, a tradition that has long been done in Japan called Nengajo is disappearing. Nengajo are New Year's cards that you send out sometime in December so that they will be delivered on New Year's Day or shortly thereafter. And it's just a postcard, and usually it has the design of whatever Chinese zodiac year it is, so year of the snake, year of the rabbit, etc. And families will, have their pictures printed on it, like of their kids, and it's kind of a way to keep in touch with people that are far flung across Japan, who you may not see or communicate with very often. But like all forms of mail that are not electronic, that are not chat, that are not messengers, mail is dying, and Nengajo is no different. And so it's really sad that New Year's, the stack of cards that you get in the mail is becoming less and less and less. And the number that we send has also become less and less. And for me, the most unfortunate part of it is, while you have convenient modern technologies like Messenger and email and FaceTime or Zoom, etc., is that even though you have those things, you don't use them to keep in contact with your second cousins or your friends from junior high school that live halfway across the country. And just because you have those technologies at your fingertips, there's no tradition of like, well, okay, it's Thursday, I'm gonna send off a message to my friend in Yamaguchi Prefecture or whatever. Nengajo was just a way that you could ritually kind of retouch base with people, and it was pretty nice for that fact. So the fact that Nengajo are disappearing means that those connections with those people are essentially disappearing as well, which is kind of sad. Gift-giving culture in Japan is disappearing in a couple of ways. The first is, it used to be tradition that you would give a gift to neighbors when you're moving in, basically to symbolically ask for smooth relationships as neighbors going forward. We're going to be living close together. A very traditional version of this was soba noodles, which the length of the noodles is symbolic of having good long relationships. Oh, someone's practicing the violin. Another type of traditional gift that is disappearing is ochugen and osebo. Ochugen is summertime and osebo is the winter. Basically, these are seasonal gifts given at those times of year to people who helped you in particular during the year. It was often given between like business partners and business associates, for example, and it could be given amongst family or friends as well. This is a tradition that I'm not as familiar with myself, if I'm perfectly honest. It's not something that I've given or that I've received. I think it's been a tradition that's largely kind of disappeared already. Not disappeared. You still see the gifts on display in department stores, for example, or even in supermarkets. They'll be like laid out so that people can use or decide to buy something. And okay, I did manage to wander into a dead end this time. Okay, back the way we came. But osebo, ochugen, like seasonal gifts, something that I've heard of being a common thing that was done and that has largely been disappearing in modern Japan. And that one, because again, I don't have personal experience with it, I couldn't explain to you exactly why those have disappeared. It's certainly another example of gift giving and traditional Japanese relationship building and relationship keeping that has disappeared. And again, to me, that seems highly unfortunate, because the type of relationship building, the type of relationship keeping, the effort that Japanese put into these things, making the effort when you meet new people, making the effort to keep long-standing relationships smooth, that sort of social lubricant between parties is something that for me is really special about Japan. And to see traditions that have long kind of upheld those norms and those societal expectations, the fact that they're disappearing, I find to be a bit disheartening, to be perfectly honest. I feel like, I've seen so much fractioning of people in the US, where we have these lack of relationships and lack of empathy and connection between people, and so far removed from how it feels in Japan, where people really seem to care and think about people around them and the relationships that they want to maintain. But to see that kind of structure disappearing in Japan as well, I can't imagine it's a good thing. So modern technology, modern living getting in the way of that is a little bit unfortunate, a little bit sad. And finally, the last one I would talk about is actually how holidays, traditional Japanese holidays, are diminishing or disappearing, or the cultural touchstones or practices around them are becoming less common. For example, it used to be that ordinary people flew koinobori, those giant flags that are basically a huge windsock but made to look like a koi or a carp. If you flew those, everyone knew you had a boy in the family. They were flown around close to Kodomo no Hi, or traditionally Boys' Day, and that was a time of celebration, and you put the koinobori out, and I feel like while you still see them put out by companies sometimes, or cities will put them in parks. For example, there's some parks near me that will fly koinobori at that time of year, but yeah, you don't see ordinary people flying them so much, unless it's like a little tiny one on their balcony. And my Japanese coworker was saying it might be because with everyone in cities living closer together, you can't really fly a big koinobori. It's gonna be flapping in your neighbor's yard or flapping across your neighbor's balcony, and that wouldn't be seen as very nice, keeping good neighborly relations. Tanabata, which we just went past in July here, traditional holiday coming out of Chinese tradition, Chinese mythology of two star figures meeting in the zodiac, or meeting in the sky only at the 7th day of the 7th month, so July 7th. And they only meet that time of year, so it's a special year. And in Japan, it's very traditional to write wishes on colored slips of paper and tie those to a freshly cut bamboo tree. And I think kindergartens still do that kind of thing as an activity, and maybe elementary schools, but as a common practice, it's one that is very much disappeared. And probably the holiday that's the most neglected, the most disappeared, is Otsukimi, which is in September, which is, some special food starts appearing in the supermarkets, but that's less and less. No one does Otsukimi parties. No one is taking the time to go out and look at the moon, which is what Otsukimi means, right? It's moon viewing parties. And of course, that's a earlier time in human existence when people had, you didn't have the light pollution of cities, and you didn't have, Netflix to watch instead. If you got Netflix, the moon's gonna have a hard time competing with that. So I feel like I'm a weirdo in that I would really like to see Otsukimi be a holiday that actually is revived, but I'm not holding my breath. I might have a few Otsukimi parties at my house from time to time, but I'm going to be Henna Gaijin, the weird foreigner who's trying to keep an old Japanese tradition alive that no one else cares about anymore. It's kind of my MO, though. I'm the type of person who does that sort of thing. But at any rate, long-termer in Japan. I know some of you watch this channel who have been here far longer than me. You must have some great examples of this, things that have disappeared from Japanese culture in the time that you've been here. Let us know in the comments, share your experiences below. I love reading that. I love learning from all of you. I think that's a fantastic experience for me to be able to hear from others who have lived here as long or longer than I have. And I always appreciate the feedback that I get on my videos. I always appreciate the fact that you watch, and if you've made it this far, you haven't hit like, you haven't hit subscribe, what are you doing? Let's do it now. Do it now! You can support the channel directly by joining my Patreon or checking out some of my sponsors below, like SakuraCo. If you order a box of curated treats, you will be helping the channel directly that way. If you sign up for Japanese lessons with Japonin, that's another way to do it and learn Japanese, get something really useful going in your life. And of course, sharing this video with others helps get my channel out to more people, and I greatly appreciate that as well. But at the end of the day, as always, I thank you so much for watching this particular video, and I hope to see you on the next one. Peace. Okay, welcome to the big shout out to all my great viewers who have taken the time to write comments in the comment section. I'm going to start by talking about some people who have come close to 50 comments on the channel, which is very prolific. Thank you so much for adding your 2 cents to what I have to say every week. People who are close to 50 comments, we have Brant Raven, we have at KateCobb9278, we have at Donatsu6378, at Studio Hoiquis, or Hoquis, not sure how to pronounce that, sorry, Makodi8022, and at Tsukare or Cunning Stunts 23. All of you are close to 50 comments, and it's enough comments that when I see your little avatar down below, I know, oh, I know who this person is. They're part of the family. Thank you so much for your continued encouragement. Also, your comments and feedback about what I could do better, or you have your own experiences to share. I always appreciate those things. At 50 comments, we have at Z-Man the Mercenary 5378, at SakuraCo David T, and at EtherDog. I see you guys, your avatar pops up, and especially I want to shout out to EtherDog because you give really long, in detail comments, and you've often actually pointed out things that I should think about or that I maybe haven't thought about when it comes to the topic that I've addressed. Z-Man the Mercenary, you've really come through with some interesting comments along those lines as well, in terms of just getting me to think about what I actually put down in the video that week. At Moki-san or HT-san, your avatar with the Uzi. That's always fun when that pops up, and I appreciate your comments. You've been very encouraging of me throughout the time and existence of this channel. At Evgeny Uskov or Evgeny Uskov, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. I'm very sorry. It looks like from the katakana on your hanko, it's like Efugeni, maybe. Any rate, I really appreciate your comments because you come at this from a very different perspective and experience in Japan, especially not hailing from a Western country. So you've criticized my view in certain instances, and I've been appreciative of that because it's always been very well put criticism, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much for commenting. Another long-time commenter with 69 comments at Elena Kirsteiner, food 4729. Thank you so much. You've been very encouraging in your comments and very supportive over the time commenting on my channel. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. At Bobbins the Third or JC Denton, you've been a long time commenter on the channel. You've been with us for years now, and I really appreciate that you've stuck with the channel and that you've been watching for this long and continuing to comment. I appreciate your comments. You recently changed your avatar, which confused me at first. It's not what it used to be, but I definitely recognize the name. And we have Autobed358. You and I, we know each other in real life. We keep in contact outside of YouTube, and I hope you enjoy the recommendations I made for your Kyoto trip. But basically, yeah, thank you so much for watching every week and commenting almost every week. Yeah, the continued support is so appreciated. Next on the list in terms of number of comments is John Go, which has been a really interesting addition because you, sir, popped up on my channel just a few weeks ago, but I kept getting comment after comment after comment on all of my back catalog of videos, meaning you were going through and watching a lot of my old content, which was pretty nice. I really appreciate the comments you made on those, and it was cool to see someone taking the time to do that. And the same can be said for Scruffy or at Scruffy2629. You have done the same thing. When you first discovered the channel, you went through a lot of the back catalog and watched a lot of videos. I appreciate that you took the time and that you were interested enough in what I had to say that you looked into that. I look forward to continued discussions with you about woodblock prints, and thank you so very much for being a full supporter over on Patreon as well. That is greatly appreciated. And shout out to you in New Zealand, or maybe you're in Japan right now, I'm not sure. Two other longtime supporters, Mr. The Water Bear or Haitaka123 or Hi It's Tom Vlog. The two of you have also been commenting for a very, very long time. You both got over 120 comments on the channel, and I always look forward to what you have to say because you share your own experiences and your own ideas, as well as comment and basically give support of what I've had to say in my videos. So that kind of support plus positive feedback and personal experiences has been really, really a good thing to read for me every time when I look down in the comments. I appreciate you guys. Thank you. I didn't mention you first, but Japan Motorcycle Tours, formerly Osaka Motorcycle Tours, thank you so much for always being there, always commenting, and being part of the Exjapter comments family. It really does feel like a family down in the comments section, especially the way some of you go back and forth. Like you and Scruffy are often having a conversation in your kind of pseudo competition about who could be the first to comment on the videos. Thank you for your continued support. Now, the next two people I'm going to mention, I have to give the anecdotal, this image that I have in my head whenever I read a comment by these people, because their comments are incredibly unique and are really interesting in the feedback they provide, and no one else comments like this. The first is Joe's Japan Jams. For some reason, what I imagine is when you're watching my video, you're watching and your eyes are getting narrower and narrower and narrower until finally you grab the World War II era helmet that's sitting next to you, jam it on your head, and start typing away your comment to reply about what I've gotten wrong or what I've not considered or what I did do well but I forgot to mention this. Basically, your comments are always really detailed, really insightful, really fun to read, and I'm totally serious. If you ever want to be interviewed on the channel, please just contact me either on my IG account or over in my email account, which is just exjapter@gmail. So I'm completely serious. I would love to interview you. Next, we have the Shredded Ward, which this probably isn't you at all, but for some reason, because of that name, Shredded Ward, and some of the things I've gleaned from your comments, I have this imagination that you're this like shredded, jacked, blonde American guy who basically dropped out of nowhere into this tiny town in Shikoku, and at first the villagers didn't know what to make of you, but you endeared yourself to everyone, and now you're just a fixture of the town, so that when outsiders come and they're like, who's the blonde guy, what's that about, all the locals are like, oh, he's just a local. You've become part of the woodwork of that tiny town in Shikoku. I know I'm probably completely off, but your comments about how you continue to live a very American lifestyle, but you're very integrated into your community, that's that plus your name, Shredded Ward. You've given me a really weird picture in my brain, but I always appreciate your comments. Thank you so much. And the last two, I have to give a special shout out to @Batogami, or my friend Don, who has been a supporter since day one, who has watched my videos since the very beginning and has appeared in some of my videos. He did an interview about owning a business in Japan, and he also put me through the gauntlet of hot, spicy chicken wings at his restaurant while he asked me questions, Sean Evans, Hot Ones style. And thank you so much, sir, for being a continual cheerleader, supporter, and a constant well of ideas for the channel. I'm always sending ideas to Don and saying, do you have examples that you can think of, or do you have something you can add to what I'm saying here? And he always comes through. Thank you so much. And last but not least, I mentioned Scruffy and John Go coming and going through my back catalog of videos. I've been thinking for a while that I need to remake a bunch of those videos because a lot of them from 5-6 years ago have about 100 views on them, and the topics themselves are pretty good and could use a refresher and a much better video quality, etc., because I'm getting a little bit better at what I do on this YouTube journey. But here's the thing, if you go back 5-6 years ago to those videos with 100 views and 2 or 3 comments, one of those comments is going to be Only One Nights. He has been following the channel since at the very beginning and has always been so incredibly encouraging, telling me that what I'm doing is great. It's different than what any other Japan YouTuber is doing on YouTube. The topics that I cover aren't being covered anywhere else on other channels. And basically just always being there to say, keep doing what you're doing something right, you're doing something that's maybe niche now, but could catch on, and people don't know what they're missing by not watching the channel. And now people are catching on. And I would say you're right. And I've actually met you in real life, and hopefully we'll be able to get together with you again soon. You mentioned you're coming to Japan shortly. So thank you so very, very much to you and to all of you who have watched this video to the end for being a constant supporter, commenter, liker, sharer of my videos and content, helping me get to 10,000 subscribers. I'm going to just keep talking about Japan from my perspective, and I hope that you continue to enjoy it and that you continue to comment. Thank you so very, very much. See you again.